Welcome, welcome. Now that people are here, I'm going to go put my phone away so it's not bothering us. I was about to say, honestly, I was worried, and here we are. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We are not on Zoom tonight. We are streaming. So this will be online, but it means we won't be having the direct interaction with people online. But for those who are watching online, hello and welcome and Shabbat Shalom. We just lit the candles because, days are getting shorter, nights starting earlier, and it was candlelighting time. But I'll share with all of you what I said to the people who were lighting the candles with me, which is that part of why I love this Shabbat right after Yom Kippur is because, similar to how people on September 1st say, bring out the Halloween decorations, the Shabbat after Yom Kippur, I say, bring out the Hanukkah melodies. So we just lit these candles to the Hanukkah tune because I love it. Obviously, all of you have not been in this room enough recently. It's been too long. It's been far too long, and I'm sure that nobody in this room has in any way transgressed any mitzvot since yesterday. None of us have sinned. None of us have sinned. No. I'm about to say, is it a challenge? I don't know. True. Welcome, welcome. He has. Well, you have an entire year to atone for it. An entire year. The list starts now. No pressure. But you've got some time. A lot of people, yes? Oh. So here's the thing. Sorry, I'm being gesticulated at about the mask. I come into contact with a lot of people, so I'm being tested regularly. But technically, we are required to have masks inside. Because I have the plexiglass, I have the option of taking it off If literally all of you are vaccinated and comfortable with it, I am comfortable taking the mask off. Can you all give me a thumbs up if everybody in this room is vaccinated and comfortable with me taking off my mask? Yes? Yes? Vaccinated, comfortable? All right, I will do that. Whew, I have a face. My other job is at the mikveh at AJU, and that's in a very small room that has no windows, no ventilation, and my clients take off, in addition to everything they wear, their masks. And it's a very emotional ceremony that can involve a lot of crying, that can involve laughter, that can involve all sorts of opportunities to breathe, which is good because these people are alive. But it does mean I'm being extra careful. So thank you all for that. They wouldn't give it to you? Oh, well. Alas, I'm not in charge. If I were, I'd put in a good word. Now I know. We are going to be using the Sidur Chadash, except for Buzz and Carol, who have Lev Shalem, and somebody else might have another. And as I was just saying to them, that's perfect, because on this special Shabbat, right after we have just spent hours and hours and days in this holy space together, I wanted us to return to this book that is our guide for the rest of the year, not the Machzor, the Sidur that we open every single week, and we pray from every single week. And I wanted us to kind of sink into it a little bit tonight, to give ourselves a moment to breathe. No pomp, no circumstance, no kittles. We're going to sing these songs and also do some readings. So as we are going through these prayers, if there's a reading or a quote that appeals to you, please raise your hand. Or when there's a pause, say, I want to say something, or page 12 at the bottom. It's okay, you can call out, and I'll repeat it so that people online can also join us if they want. The idea is to explore and to experience this moment and this service as the creators of this book and as our ancestors intended and hoped. So with that, we're going to start with Yedid Nefesh, which is on page 12. To give you a warning, at the very end of the service, we're going to end with blessings instead of with Adon Olam. So kind of be thinking to yourself, what's a blessing you might want to give? But we'll come back to that. Yes? I think so. Of course. Definitely. If we have an usher emergency, you will be recalled, but I trust that that will not be the case. I say it jokingly that, you must not have been here enough, or, you must have sinned. But honestly, I'm happy to see all of you. I love Yom Kippur, and I also love this community. And so it's a pleasure to be here with all of you tonight, and with those of you online, even though I can't see you. I still feel connected to you. So Yedid Nefesh, please sing along if and when you feel so moved. I think we're going to do the first 2 stanzas and then sink into the melody bit. Yedid Nefesh Av HaRachaman Mishoch Avtach Eretz Zonach Yarutz Avtach Kemo Ayal Yishtachave El Mol Hadarach Teravlo Yedidutach Minofet Tzuv Vechotam Adonai Ziv Haolam Nafshi Cholat Ahavetach Ana Elna Rifanala Be'arod La Noam Zivach As Ti תתחזק ותתרפא והייתה שמחת עולם. ידה די 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 די, ידה די 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 די, ידה די 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 די, ידה די די די, ידה די 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 די, ידה די 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 די, ידה די 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 די, ידה 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 די 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 די, yada day 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 day, yada day 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 day. In the Sidur Chadash on the left side of the page, at the bottom there it says, an invitation to God. And I was looking at that, and these lines jumped out at me. I'd like to share them with you. Feeling becomes prayer in the moment in which we forget ourselves and become aware of God. Prayer is an invitation to God to intervene in our lives. And maybe other verbs appeal to you more: to enter our lives, to join in our lives, to support us, to give thanks. But either way, I think it's indisputable that prayer is a unique form of communication and hope. It's hope in action in a way. Yes, Buzz. Share with us, Buzz. Wow.
It was characterized by its author as a love song directed to God. It is built out of an acrostic of the four-letter name of God, the Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. And then you look at the four stanzas, sure enough, there's a Yod-Heh and a Vav and a Hey. I didn't know that. Each develops a metaphor of God as a lover. There's a little more about the various tunes that have been sung.
Buzz just shared from the Lev Shalem this description of how Yedid Nefesh is a love song. And that's literally, Yedid Nefesh means this dear soul, this dear being. This idea that, yes, sure, on one level, there might be an obedience aspect to following mitzvot, but the idea of prayer being love, being a love song, Yedid, 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 that which is dearest to us. From a poet from the 1500s, you said, right? And here we are singing these words today. Also, on the note about acrostics, a lot of our liturgy includes acrostics and the Aleph Bet. For example, the Ashamnu, sound familiar? That one. That's the Aleph Bet in order. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. It starts with Ashamnu, and it goes all the way to the end of the alphabet. Tough. Similarly, Ashrei. Ashrei is also the Aleph Bet. Each line, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. Just some fun facts about this liturgy that we are exploring. We're going to turn the page, a couple pages, and we are going to continue with our service with Lechuna Ranana. For me, it's on page 22, and I'd like to share with you, I figured I would take this excuse, I'm here, Rabbi's not. I'm gonna share with you a couple of the melodies that really helped me fall in love with this service. So I'm going to sing it through twice, and then I'm going to sing it through a third time. It's really short, just the first two lines. And I'd invite you to join in with me, whether it's with the words or not. Maybe you're humming along. Maybe you're just going, ah. The reason I really, really would love to hear other sounds, no matter whether you know it or not, is because what I'm saying is, come, let us sing to the Lord. And something we see in our liturgy again and again is that we all have our own way of praising and singing to the Lord. So 3 times I'm going to sing the first 2 lines of Lechuna Ranana. And when you feel so moved to make a holy sound to God, please join in. Lechuna Ranana l'Adonai Nariya Litzo Yishenu. Lechuna Ranana l'Adonai Nariya
litzo yishenu nekadma fanav betzoda bizmirot Maria lo nekadma fanav betzoda bizmirot Maria lo. That was one. L'chunaranana l'Adonai Naria litzo yishenu L'chunaranana l'Adonai Naria litzo yishenu Nekadma fanav betzoda bizmirot Naria lo Nekadma fanav betzoda bizmirot Naria lo. Now once a bit quieter. L'chunaranana l'Adonai Naria litzo yishenu L'chunaranana l'Adonai Naria litzo yishenu Nekadma fanav betzoda bizmirot Naria lo Nekadma fanav betzoda bizmirot Naria lo. We're going to go ahead with that same energy to the bottom of page 26. The bottom of page 26, we're seeing this line from Psalm 97. And I always think of this line, Or zarua latzadik ul yishrei lev simcha, light is sown for the righteous and joy for the upright heart. When we hear about Nadav and Avihu and the mysterious fire that killed them when they approached the tabernacle, but in a way which caused them to be killed. Light and fire are powerful and central and also dangerous. When we light Shabbat candles, one of the things we are saying, in addition to just playing with fire, one of the things we are saying is that here we are engaging with one of the most elemental forces on this planet. Here we are handling something that honestly is more powerful in many regards than we are. And so when light is sown, that's both a comfort and a challenge. The righteous have the responsibility to handle that light and to handle that fire in a way that is respectful and loving and also with a bit of awe. So again, I'm going to sing this a few times. If you know, please, if you feel so moved, join in. Oh, Zarua, Tzadik, Ulishrei lev, Simcha, Yadadaida, 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 that was one. Oh, Zarua, Latzadik, Ulishrei lev, Simcha. Oh, Zarua, Latzadik, Ulishrei lev, Simcha. Yadadaida, yadadai, yadadaida, yadadai, yadadaida, yadadai, yadadaida, yadadai. Light is sown for the righteous, and joy for the upright in heart. On page 28 and 29, we have Psalm 98. And on the left side, in the English A few lines before the bottom, it reads, "Let the sea roar and all within it. Let the world and its inhabitants give praise. Let the rivers clap hands in gladness. Let the mountains join in song." And I wanted you to think, something that we see a lot in our liturgy, especially in the Psalms, are these images of things that aren't people singing and praising God in their own unique way. So I wanted us all to step back for a second and think about our lives. Think about the inanimate objects or the non-human living creatures or anything in our lives. What are some other things, in addition to rivers and mountains, the world, its inhabitants, the sea? What are some other things that could praise God in a unique way? I'll give you an example. When I had this idea earlier, the immediate first thing that came to mind was that delicious sound when the coffee is percolating. You know, in the morning when you really need that cup of coffee and you hear those bubbles and it's ready and it goes, tss. That, for me, is a beautiful and unique way that a coffee machine can offer up praise in its own unique way. So can anyone think of another thing in our lives, in our day-to-day lives, that offers up its praise in a unique way? Birds, yes, birds. You know what I've noticed about birds as well? They sing and they chirp, but sometimes I swear they're flying for fun. Sometimes they're sitting. I was at a Whole Foods and there were doves that were sitting at the top of this really tall tree, and usually you see doves on the ground, and I was like, those doves, they are loving the world right now. They are loving the fact that they can see it from that angle. Anyone else? What's something showing its love for God or for life in a unique way? Wind. Yes, and what does wind do? It blows. It travels. It carries sound. It carries scents with it. It explores, yes. The air was not content staying still. Someone else had a hand. Yes. A babbling brook that's babbling. Yes, that sound when the water is conversing with the rocks. Do you have another one? Niagara Falls, yes, yes. Which in its own way is a babbling brook. Yeah, a very, very loudly babbling brook. Yes. Niagara Falls. Yes. Do you have one more? Yes, one more. Oh, yeah. A campfire, that's an excellent one. A campfire that's crackling and also sending the flame and the smoke up to heaven. When we read these Psalms, they're not just words. They're words by people who were so moved by seeing the world around them, doing everything you just described, that they wrote it down because they understood that there was a connecting energy in all of it. That beauty is one that I hope I don't forget the next time I'm brewing a cup of coffee. Maybe I'll remember it after I've had the cup of coffee. But I hope that all of us, the next time we hear wind blowing or birds chirping, that we will remember that these two are words of praise. I couldn't hear you? The trees that smell? Like maple. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Another thing to know about me, I'll just share this with you because we were all here and also masked, is that I am a bit hard of hearing. I have some hearing loss in one ear, so it's not a personal thing, but with the masks, it's sometimes hard without seeing people's mouths. So thank you for your patience with me. And yes, maple trees. Trees that smell like maple, or maple trees, especially in the autumn, those bright colors. I agree. Let's continue. All right. The bottom of page 30, we have Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lahar kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. On the left, we have the English translation, Psalm 99. Exalt the Lord our God, those last three lines. Exalt the Lord our God and worship at God's holy mountain, for the Lord our God is holy. I've circled the words exalt, worship, and holy. I'd like us to sing again 3 times. We're going to sing Romemu first in a holy sense, whatever that means to you, then in a worship sense, whatever that means to you, and third time in an exalt sense, whatever that means to you. Spoiler alert for me, I'm probably going to be singing pretty loudly on the third one. All right? There is an echo portion to this, and I would love it if you would join in.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו.
Now exalted.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו.
All right, we're going to turn ahead to page 36 in our Siddur. So for people who are not in the same Siddur, I don't know if you have this. There is a short writing called I Believe in the middle of the page. And I was wondering if I could get a volunteer to read I Believe. Sherry. Yeah. It says here that was an inscription found on the wall of a cellar in Cologne, where Jews were hiding from Nazis. And that fact makes it all the more powerful and heartbreaking. At the same time, I think there is an essential truth here. And so my slight agitation for all of you is to just think about what you believe in, what it was that brought you here. Could be God, could be tradition, could be community, boredom, excitement for next year's Yom Kippur, I'm not sure. But it's important to believe in something. So on that note, let's keep going. If we turn the page to 38, we find Lecha Dodi. As Buzz was telling us before, this is another one of those love poems. So much of the Shabbat imagery is about a bride, about the love of someone's life, the love of someone's soul. Lecha Dodi, again we have Dodi similar to Yedid, Dodi here. And it's that same feeling of love. I wanted to ask, I have my favorite melodies, but I'm going to do two different melodies, and we're here, we're a small crowd, we all know this song. Does anybody have a melody? I'm not going to make you lead it, unless you want to, in which case you're welcome up here, we have another microphone. But if anybody has a melody that they are in the mood for, or that they particularly love, I'd like to crowdsource for a second. And take a second. There's no, yeah. There are so many, and I know people have favorites, and I know people. Do you have one? Yeah. So here, I honestly don't know this one, but I can tell that half of you do. I am happy to stand here and learn it. If one of you will come and sing with, I will sing with you. I would, Rivka, would you do us the honor of coming and just, both of you? Okay. Mm-hmm. I've never heard this version. So it's at some point when it's not Shabbat, so I can record things, I would love to have a recording of you singing that because I don't know that one. Well, I would say probably not for tonight, just for the purposes of this service, but I would love to learn that so next time I hear it, I can join in with the half of you who just started singing it because that was really beautiful from where I'm standing. Who else has a version that they like? We can definitely start with that one. That's the one I most associate with this temple, in fact. Yeah. We can do that one. Is there another one that people want to do for the second half? Carpenter. I'm just making this up right now. I don't actually know the song. Okay, so after Shabbat, I need a recording of this version and of this version. I will start. Yep, so the one I was going to do for the second version, if it was up to me, was Lecha Dodi Li, because I like that. But we'll start with yours, and then we'll end with Lecha Dodi. Go team. We've got it. All right. How does it start again? That's not the one, though. We can do that one. What was the one that you said? It's the one that's always here. Huh? There we go. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamor vezachor b'dibor echad ishmianu el hameyuchad Adonai echad. ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלחקי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה קומי צאי, מתוך ההפך הרב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התנערי מעפר קומי לבשי בגדי, תפארתך מעל יד בן ישי. בית הלך וקרבה אל נפשי,
גאלה לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 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 התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי. כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לא תשיבי, לא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, בך יחסוס עניי עמי, ונבנתה עירתי לה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. והילים שיסה שוסי, ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהי. כמסוס חתן הקלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ועץ אדוני תריצי, על יד איש בן פצי, ונשמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עצרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. You may be seated.
Our special Shabbat psalm is on page 42 and 43. What I'm about to sing is only the top few lines. It is good to thank you, O Lord. That's a truth. It is good to thank you, to sing praises to your exalted name, to proclaim your love every morning, baboker, and your faithfulness every night, be'erev.
Tov lehodot l'Adonai, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, ואמונתך בלילות. טוב להודות לאדוני.
With that, we conclude our Kabbalat Shabbat service, and we prepare to transition into Ma'ariv, to our evening service. We're going to be continuing with this same feeling of, if you see something you like on the page, please speak up. If you see a quote or a poem that appeals to you, please do share it, regardless of what Siddur you are in. This is a journey that we are meant to take together. First, though, we have to call each other to worship. So please rise for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'dvar u'mariv aravim. You may be seated.
Praised are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, whose word brings on the dusk of evening. Your wisdom opens the gates of dawn. Your understanding regulates time and seasons. The stars above follow their appointed rounds. In response to your divine will, you create day and night. You alternate darkness and light. You remove the day and bring on the night. You separate one from the other. We call you Lord of heavenly hosts. You are our living God. May you rule over us as you rule over nature. Praised are you, O Lord, who brings the evening dusk.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב הרבים.
On the left here I read, with everlasting love. Before the Shema, we are reminded of God's everlasting love, Ahavat Olam. After the Shema, we have V'ahavta. So we go from Ahavat Olam to V'ahavta, where we are called upon to love God. So the Shema is sandwiched by a reminder of God's love for us and our need to love God. God's love came first. Because of this love, God endowed us with the love and capacity to love and gave us the Torah. So with that, please join me for Ahavat Olam.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך, לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Adonai Elohechem Emet. As we turn the page, we're now on page 60 at the top. It repeats that last word from the Shema, from Emet to Emet, from truth to truth. And I want to remind you of that very short poem, I believe, that we read about the things we believe in even when we can't see them. And I think that's tied in with the concept of truth. What do you know is truth? What do you believe and what do you know? Sometimes I think that faith is just knowledge without proof in its most pure form. We're going to join back together at the bottom of the page in a song that we sing in remembrance of one of the most pure acts of faith in our people's story, walking into the waters that then split and saved us from what would have been the destruction of our people. Mi chamocha is at the bottom of the page. ומלכותו בארץ קיבלו עליהם משה ובני ישראל לכענו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם ינאי נאי 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 ינאי ינאי נאי ינאי ינאי נאי ינאי נאי נאי Yay na 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 ya na na ya na na yay na 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 ya na 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 mi chamocha bayalim Adonai mi kamocha nehedar bakodesh nora tehilot osefele nora tehilot osefele מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים לפני משה זה אלי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ינאי ינאי נאי ינאי ינאי נאי ינאי נאי נאי ינאי ינאי נאי ינאי נאי ינאי נאי נאי ינאי נאי ינאי נאי. I imagine that day they sang and danced until they had lost their voice and perhaps some feeling in their feet for the sheer joy of that miracle. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Every day and in every generation God redeems us. again and again, just as God redeemed our ancestors. On page 62, we come to Hashkivenu, to probably my favorite. I warned you at the beginning of the service that we were going to end the service with blessings. I wanted to take a moment here to invite everybody to breathe, as always, but to also think, what is the blessing you need? And what is the blessing you need or want to give? We'll have a moment at the end of the service to offer blessings to each other. If anybody would like to, you of course don't have to. But just sit in that feeling of blessing inside of your heart and in the stillness of this moment after such a week and such a year. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'hamidenu Malkeinu Lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'hamidenu Malkeinu Lechaim. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu lechaim u'leshalom etavei ad olam. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Baruch ata Adonai, hapore sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. We turn the page for Vishamru. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. איי 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 ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. On the left side page here, on page 65, I have a little blurb that says at the top, Shabbat has kept us alive. From Achad Ha'am, who is a very important writer in the history of Zionism and just the Jewish people in general. A Jew who feels a real tie with the life of our people throughout the generations will find it utterly impossible to think of the existence of a Jew without Shabbat. One can say without exaggeration that more than the Jew has kept the Shabbat has kept the Jew. A thought. Chatzi Kaddish divides what has come before from what comes after. This is on page 66. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei rabba Bi'amad yivrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uv'yomechon Uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael Ba'gala Uv'izman kari v'himeru Amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach le'olam olal me'al maya yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh ve'yitadar ve'yitale ve'yitala shmei dekudusha B'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran bialma vehimeru. Amen. The evening Amidah begins on page 68. You can use the words in the Siddur or the words of your heart, whatever it is that most speaks to you. Please rise and face towards Jerusalem. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav, uyase shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, imru, amen. We're going to pause to sing Misha Berach for those in our community and beyond who are in need of healing, of body, of mind, of soul, of heart, and also for those who are taking care of them. Because, in the words of the poet, in the end, we're all just walking each other home. The words are in the back of your Siddur on the ultimate cover. Misheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. God of our ancestors, please grant healing in whatever way is needed. I would invite everybody here to take a moment to breathe and to say quietly to yourself the names of those that you are holding in your heart today who are in need of this healing. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May it be the will of God that such healing will come to pass. We continue with Kaddish Shalem. Kaddish Shalem for me is on page 86, although there are multiples, so yours might be on a different page. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, b'yalma divrach yirtei v'yamlech malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayed echol beit Yisrael, b'agala uv'izman karim v'imeru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'olam olalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei de kudesha b'rechu le'ila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata tameran be'alma ve'imeru. Amen. Titkabal tzlotchon avotchon l'chol Yisrael kodam avuhon divishmaya ve'imeru. Amen. Yehi shlam rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru. Amen. We're going to go past Kiddush. We'll do Kiddush at the very end. And instead, we are going to turn. I apologize, my sticky note fell out, and so I don't have the page marked. Thank you for your patience with me as I find the next page. Aleinu, there we go. Aleinu is on page 118. Could I have 2 volunteers to come and open the ark? Because this mic cord will not reach far enough for me to open it. Thank you, Naomi. Or one, I'll do 1 or 2. I appreciate it. If everyone else could please rise for Aleinu. It is on page 118. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. I can leave that open, that's fine. Perfect. As the art is closed, you may be seated. And thank you both. As a community, we are marking the yahrzeits of Isaac Flashner and Yaakov Moskovich. Are there any names to add, or would anybody like to share a memory? Yes. Max Cohen. Yes, please. Come on up. I'll even put a mask on. That mic's on too, so go for it.
My dad, Max Pullen, was born in 1919. When he was 8 years old, he lost his mother. She went in for something incredibly routine. It was before the days of antibiotics. And so a very routine procedure turned out to be a deadly one. My dad at that time was 8, and his little baby brother Gordon was 3. My grandfather was working 9 hours, or 12 hours a day, excuse me. And the only viable option was that my dad and his brother went to the orphanage, the Jewish orphanage in Winnipeg. They were there for a year. Gordon, as I said, was a 3-year-old. My dad was an 8-year-old. Gordon could not be consoled. And so they asked my dad if he would be willing to go to sleep with the 3-year-olds instead of his contemporaries, and he agreed. And so for the entire year that they were in the orphanage, they fell asleep holding hands. And Gordon didn't tell me this until after my dad passed away, but that year that they spent together holding hands created a bond that I've never seen between two brothers. And that bond lasted until my father died when he was 75. A few years later, once again, well, not once again, but Gordon became ill. So my dad would take a trolley, didn't matter what the weather was, every single day, and from whatever, 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. He couldn't go into the hospital. Gordon was on an upper floor, and so my dad, for an hour every single day, would have a conversation by yelling up to an upper floor of the hospital to Gordon. Moving ahead a bit, World War II, as I said, they were living in Winnipeg. World War II, my father joined His Majesty's Royal Canadian Army Air Corps. My dad was, his job was when planes would come back from a mission, if they were lost, using radio frequency, it must have been some sort of triangulation, would guide the planes back to the air base. 1947, I was born in Winnipeg. 1950, my parents weren't getting rich, to put it mildly. They were freezing their tuchuses off. Can I say that on the pulpit? Thank you. In Winnipeg, every winter for 6 months. And they figured, to heck with it. They had relatives in LA. They said, we're not getting rich here. If we're going to be poor, we might as well be poor in Los Angeles, where at least it's warm. Moving to Los Angeles worked out incredibly well for them. My dad went into business with a couple of my uncles. For the first couple of years, they were struggling. And 40 years later, they had 80 employees. My parents had a phenomenal love affair, which was a terrific role model. And Esther's parents also had a real love affair. And so we were lucky enough to have terrific role models on how to be married to one another. My mother became ill with cancer when she was 64 years old. And she was vital to the business. She was the financial person. And my dad completely neglected a business that he spent 40 years building. And he was incredibly dedicated to my mother. My siblings and I couldn't get my father to take 2 hours and go to a movie. In terms of getting out of the house when my mother was ill, a 10-minute trip to the drugstore was probably his biggest venture out of the house. We lost my mother 2 years later when she was about 66. And then my father, unfortunately, 4 years after that, developed a horrible disease called Guillain-Barré. A lot of people have not heard of it, but Guillain-Barré, the myelin sheath of the autonomic nervous system degenerates, and so you're completely paralyzed. You can't even blink your eyes. And the horror of the disease is that your mind fully functions. And so your brain is operating, but nothing else is. The Guillain-Barré went through its course, and then the autonomic nervous system started coming back. And if there was a therapy, my father had it. At that point, he was 75 or so. My God, that's my age in April. His physical therapist told me that he was her hardest working patient, that she wished that her 19-year-olds worked as hard as my dad did. And so he worked for months coming back from Guillain-Barré. And then, unfortunately, with the incredible work that he was putting in, he developed a brain tumor. And within a few months of the diagnosis of the brain tumor, we lost my father. My parents lived a relatively short life. My consolation is that they lived an incredibly full and very rich life, full of travel, full of friends, full of love, and role model for us And I think that's a role model for everybody. And I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That image of the two of the boys holding hands, I'm so glad they had each other.
Yeah, and an impact of that is that my dad and Gordon each had 4 kids. And as far as my father was concerned, he had 8 kids. Gordon's kids were his as well. And as far as Gordon's concerned, today Gordon is a 96-year-old lawyer still practicing in Winnipeg. Still as stubborn as can be, still as loving as could be. But as far as Gordon was concerned, my dad's 4 kids were his 4 kids as well. And Esther can tell you the tremendous relationship that Esther and I both have with Gordon.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I believe I saw another hand.
My mother, Arlene Levinson, and I'm looking at the flowers today because my mother was all about Chidor Mitzvah, and she set up the flower fund at our synagogue to make sure that there never was a Shabbat without fresh flowers. And every year in her memory, I donate flowers to our home temple in New Hampshire because it's the only way that I can say thank you.
What a beautiful way to be able to honor her memory. And what a beautiful thing she did by setting up that fund in the first place to establish that. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Would anybody else like to share or add a name? Those who are in mourning or observing a yard site, I would invite you to rise. If you're at home, you may also rise and say Mourner's Kaddish with us. It's on page 124. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah bi'alma divra chirute v'amlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kari ve'imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam olalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudsha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama Rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimroma hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. May their memories always be a blessing. I promised you at the beginning of our service and in the middle of our service that there would be a time, a moment at the end for us to give each other's blessings, and that moment is not quite yet, because first we are going to do Kiddush. And after we do Kiddush, of course, I can take this back off. After we do Kiddush, this is your final warning to think of what a blessing you would like to give. After that, I would invite anybody who feels so inclined to simply, at this moment, after Rosh Hashanah, after Yom Kippur, in this moment where we're breathing in the quiet space of this room, what's a blessing that you can offer as we head towards another year in this world? First, Kiddush. I don't believe we have little cups, but I will sing loudly and take a big gulp in honor of everybody here. If it is your custom, feel free to rise. ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי. L'chaim. L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim ki banu b'charta v'yotzanu kidashta kohamim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch ata Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
Whew. That is sweet. That is sweet.
Somehow surprises me every time. We also have a challah under here. And it looks suspiciously round. Would anybody like to make motzi? So I don't usually actually eat very much challah. Anyone in the mood for some challah? Anyone? I'll do it, but we can all sing together. How's that for a deal? All right? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem mi'haaretz. The time has come, the walrus said. The time has come, the rabbi said. The time has come to give blessings. So, for those online, if you have a blessing to give, you could say it really, really loudly and maybe we'll hear you. Or think it really, really strongly and maybe we'll, it's being streamed. But for those of us here, who has a blessing that they would like to offer to everyone here?
It's more of a wish than a blessing, but I think that we've all been through so much over the past year and a half, and I am so sorry for people who've lost loved ones during that time and were unable to go through our rituals. And what my hope is for the future is that we will continue to value our relationships that have become so important to us since we've been able to get back together, and that we have a future filled with happiness and hopefulness and togetherness, and that nobody needs to be separated from a loved one because of a horrible pandemic.
Amen. So with the horrors of the past year and a half, may we all continue to grow and cherish these connections and our relationships and to support each other.
This is from Rabbi Schechter. He once shared a one-minute, I had a private one-minute sermon from him once, and that was the real meaning of the word shalom. The true meaning of shalom, it isn't just, hello, goodbye, peace, but the true meaning of shalom is the tranquility that comes from being at peace with yourself. So the blessing from Rabbi Schechter to me, and we're going to spread Rabbi Schechter's to all of you, may you all have the true meaning of the word shalom.
May we all have the true meaning of shalom, so inner peace with ourselves. Tranquility and peace with ourselves. Thank you. Peace in mind, body, and spirit. Can you hear Ratzon?
As we're getting older, we realize that there is so much left in life that we still want to do. But we're being limited. And I wish everyone to have the health and the strength to fulfill your deepest desires.
May we all have the health and the strength to fulfill our deepest desires. Amen. Does anybody else have a blessing that they would like to offer?
May the science soon provide the answer to protect our children as well as the adults of our communities.
Amen. Can you hear Ratzon?
May our children soon be as protected as possible. Yes. Yes. A blessing that I have to remind myself of sometimes is that I do believe that I will live in a time again